And it comes back to this blue dot effect thing that I mentioned before, which I can give a simple example of. Didn't I talk to you about the blue dot effect?
I think yes, I believe.
If
so.
not, I talked to my wife about it.
I think I either in an audio message.
referenced
You
it.
can quickly say it though.
Yeah. So
No-
the blue dot
no
effect
hurting
is, it
preference.
comes down to just
A little bit of a preface here.
yeah. It's okay. I'm just doing this for a high level summary because actually, I bet ChatGPT would say it better. What is the blue dot effect? What is the blue dot effect? It refers to a psychological phenomenon where the presence of rare or uncommon events can lead individuals to perceive those events as being more frequent or widespread than they actually are. It can manifest in various contexts, such as decision-making, perception, and judgment. It participates from a study where participants were asked to identify the presence of blue dots among a series of dots of different colors. It was purple was the other color, in varying shades of purple. When the number of blue dots is gradually reduced, participants said to perceive the purple dots as more frequent than they actually were. So the purple dots started looking blue, some of them, because they took away blue dots. This shift occurs because the brain adapts to the scarcity of blue dots by lowering its threshold for what it considered a blue dot. So they started taking blue dots away but had the same number of dots. It's like your brain was set for there to be 50 blue dots. So these shades of purple, I'm going to start thinking they look blue to me now.
Okay.
So taking that in a broader effect, it illustrates how people adjust their criteria based on the frequency of certain events or stimuli. For example, like a workplace where negative feedback is rare, employees might start thinking that neutral or even mildly positive feedback is negative, right? And I'll just think, and for me, that can still sound confusing. I think of societally, in just me saying it, and like what racism is. I think what true racism is people act offended by things that aren't racist at all. Like if I were to say, oh, I just saw this black dude and this Asian dude, they might be like, whoa, African American and Asian American, like, or just, you know what I mean? You can still say that sort of thing.
I don't know quite. I'm not saying you're wrong, but I'm trying to pick up
certain, like, I feel like there's stuff that you can, like, just look at movies 20 years ago if they made fun of, like, they'd make jokes about things a certain race did. Like, even white people, they make fun of white people and the way they act.
Gotcha.
To make fun of a race and how they act. It's not hateful. It's just making jokes.
I see.
There's
Yes.
hateful true racism, which comes from a place of hate and like using slurs and stuff. But there's this, you know what I mean?
Perfect example is a buddy of mine who's Hispanic. He's Mexican. He made a joke about me, like about we were talking about foods and culture and stuff like that. And he was like, yeah, man, he's like talking about like what they eat because we were talking about leftovers and stuff that people have at their house. And what do y'all usually have? What's something in your fridge that y'all have all the time that's there? So we started talking, and Pilo said something. My boy said something about like, you know, stuff they got in the fridge. Like find some beans, this and that, blah blah blah. For all this, he's like started listing all these different things off about that you might find in the fridge. And then he was like, man, that's how you eat good, bro. He's like, that's why we're all big. He was like, if you want some fucking turkey and ham and cheese sandwiches, bro, go to a white person's house. And I started laughing my ass off.
You didn't have any of that
because
stuff
I started laughing my ass off because I had turkey and cheese in my fucking crisper. So I'm like, he's right.
So that's the thing.
Was right.
Making fun of a stereotype isn't hateful.
No, because he wasn't. While he did say, if you want some turkey and cheese and like turkey and cheese sandwiches, go to a white person's house.
Why couldn't you do that about any other race?
Huh?
But why couldn't you do that about any other race?
Because they're not. That's not something in their wheelhouse. Like it's
I know, but I'm just saying every race would have specific food in the fridge. High odds.
I see.
So if I were to say whatever a common black food is,
gotcha.
Like, oh man, no, if you want fried chicken or watermelon, go to their fridge.
Yeah.
And even if you took like, and I'm not, or just pick something realistic if you're African American, you know, and but if it's like that's actually common, you're just, it's the same thing. It's not hate centered, you know?
I would say one thing would be oxtail. A lot of oxtail is a fairly common.
Yeah.
Something you're not going to find in like
This
a
is like
white
making
or
fun of
Hispanic
things that
household.
certain races and
But you'd find
cultures do.
oxtail like that. You'd find lingua, menudo.
Yeah.
You could find that. in
Like
a
that
Hispanic
is not
household.
racism. That's not hateful.
No,
it's
it's
not
just
trying
something
to be.
that-
It's just like making fun
Well,
of what some people wear or something.
And I feel like just for maybe perhaps let's just back up a little, slow down. For anybody who perhaps heard any of this and was like, "Whoa." I think the thing that's important to keep in mind when it comes to talking about stuff that's racist and things like that is the story that we all know of the boy that cried wolf. And it was a boy crying that there was a wolf, but there was never actually a wolf there. One day there's a wolf and he cries for it. Nobody takes him serious because he's been crying for the wolf, right?
Yeah, he cries, they come, and the wolf's not there.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then finally one day he cries and the wolf is there. And so the point is that it's
And
like,
nobody shows up because they've been
They
like,
think he's
you've
full of
been
it.
playing us.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
for
I think the
attention
thing
or-
that's important to keep about what Matt's saying and keep in mind, like one of the important, I think, takeaways personally, is that if you're lowering the bar for things that you're, quote, calling racist or whatever, or things like that, then when actual things happen and actual offenses and lines are crossed, people aren't going to take those as serious as they should.
Yeah.
Because you're over here trying to say that the fact that somebody skipped you in line was because you're white.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, they probably didn't see you.
Yeah. And I'm just
And
saying
the
the fact
reason
of
that this
perceiving
happened
that
was-
is because of this effect.
Yes, and so you can, and exactly, and I wanted to preface again,
Yeah.
just say all that, just to say that what this is understanding that it's like it's not saying that those things aren't there, they're not real. It's like it's making sure that those things are acknowledged correctly, and we're not
Yeah,
blipping the
'cause-
radar with this
exactly.
bullshit. That's like
And that
no,
trauma,
you didn't.
Trauma
get,
is
you
another
didn't get-
thing. People's trauma. Trauma has lost its value.
It's like-
actually traumatic events. People's like, that's my trauma. It's like,
yeah,
no, that's
what
not
I'm
trauma.
trying to say is that your point is my point is that like you didn't get cut off in traffic because that guy didn't cut you off because you're white. This didn't happen because you're white. This happened. A lot of times it's chalked up to other things.
Yeah, it just happened.
And incompetence, things happen. So
Yeah,
yeah,
nothing
and
to
that's
do
what I
with the
think is
race.
important to remember here is that it's like it's not saying that these things aren't there, but it's,
Yeah.
you know, we want to make sure you're specific in because there's a lot of real things that happen and people don't believe. And also too, there's people that won't say it because they're afraid of that. Some people are afraid of like, no, they're not going to believe me. It's like they're
Yeah.
just going to think it whatever, you know. They're like,
No,
I'm
totally.
crying because I personally know somebody that something's happened to, and he didn't want to make a big deal about it because he was like, I don't know, I just didn't want it to seem like I was just tripping over something that wasn't
yeah,
a deal.
there's, like,
But
still
it was a
true
fucking
racism,
problem.
but yeah.
it was a fucking problem.
If
but he
things-
personally didn't
yeah.
want to pursue it because he was like, I don't want to be seen as this, and it's like you fucking should.
Yeah, and that's almost a different thing altogether,
Yeah.
honestly.
Sorry,
But no, that's a good point though. But here, fun site with some other examples because the effect isn't. It can be anything. So in the pre-Uber days, pre-ride sharing, people were willing to wait 30 minutes for taxi to come home. Right? Mm-hmm. That was cool. Well, today they'll complain if there's a 5-minute delay. So just the standard of living and adjustment.
I see.
The goalpost keeps moving, right? Wi-Fi speed was a fraction of what we have today, right? Yet we'll complain if a page is low. Like I remember when it would take
Dial
a
up
minute to
took
page.
it take you how long
And
just
it-
to turn your computer
Yeah.
on?
And it makes sense just because to me it's almost like, okay, that's obvious. It's like what normal has changed, what's the standard has changed.
Yeah.
So at the same time, like some of the blue dot effect, I mean, I don't even necessarily think that's a great example. Right? Because we were wait for things to take like snail mail before email. We're
Yes.
willing to wait
You're not
because that
wrong.
was the standard. Once technology and society advance, if the standard moves, see, I don't even like these examples because I just feel like it pertains more to like, okay, one of the studies is they would list like a bunch of like offenses, like were terrible, and then they would just like start listing or faces. They would have a really mean face and like a smiley face, and then gradually they would the mean face would get more neutral to where like people were interpreting a neutral face as a mean face.
Okay,
You know, to where like the mean face still exists, but with it's
No, it makes sense.
it's so
I see what you're
rare.
saying,
It's
yeah.
so rare, or that with that now a face that isn't mean, people look at mean because the true mean face is society. It can be a good indicator for things,
Yeah.
but it does just because the mean face is rare doesn't mean a neutral face should be taken as
Should
mean.
be taken as mean. I see exactly what you mean. Yeah.
That's probably the best way I could say.
Yeah.
it.
No, it's descriptive. It's perfect. It's understanding exactly. You're not. It's what it almost comes down to is not misinterpreting emotions. In a
Yeah, or
sense.
it applies to anything.
Yeah.